For this video, we spoke to faculty and staff from all 10 campuses and asked them to tell us their story about why student mental health matters. It is our hope that their testimonials promote further engagement in offered mental health trainings, increased attention to the signs and symptoms of distress, and compassion for those in our community who struggle with mental health concerns. When did you first take an interest in student mental health, and why?
I first took an interest when I saw an increasing number of students with conduct issues also presenting other things like depression, stress, things like that. I think there's a close connection between student conduct and mental health, and it kind of got to a point where I realized I needed to educate myself more about the mental health side.
Thank you, Courtney. Don, would you care to share your experience?
I think I became very interested in this topic when I was a graduate student myself in the UC and carrying the burden of stress going through the post-BA process. And so I had some wise people who guided me through that process and helped me manage my own stress. And so that was my introduction to the topic by facing some significant challenges myself.
Can you tell us about a time when you were able to put your knowledge to work to help a student, colleague, or family member?
Yes, I actually had a time around last year where I received a call from a professor because there was a student who had received an A on their first paper, and then the professor hadn't seen them for about 2 or 3 weeks. And they were a student who were absolutely involved on campus as well as participating in class. And so the professor was really worried about that student. I spoke with that student. They said that they felt like they were in a really sort of depressed state of mind and that they didn't want to come out of their residence hall room. And so we sat and we talked for about 45 minutes around all the challenges that they were having. And by the end of the conversation, the student assured me that they would actually meet me the next morning, where I walked them over to counseling and psych services. And so for me, that's one of the things that sticks out in my mind about why I also continue to do this work and why it's important. But it's also one of those stories where it's not just one person's responsibility on campus to make sure our students are safe, but it's everybody's, and we are a community. And so it was really helpful that that professor actually reached out to call someone.
Great answer, Akira. Okay, Andrew, your turn.
I certainly have helped a number of students, who maybe have come to my office hours and been, had a mental health issue or wanted to discuss a mental health issue. And so I've talked to them and I've tried to find appropriate referrals for them. Sometimes students have come to me hoping to see me, but that's not possible. That's not ethical for me to see a student. And so I try to discern what the concerns they have are and what the appropriate referral source would be. Often that's simply to CAPS, the Counseling and Psychological Services Center, but sometimes there's, they want to go more privately. And so really, the most common scenario is me being in the role of helping them find an appropriate referral.
What are some signals that a student may be struggling that a staff or faculty member might notice?
Well, there's a number of things to be aware of. Oftentimes, students that are struggling psychologically show evidence of it in their physical demeanor. So they may be kind of disheveled, not taking care of how they dress or keeping up their personal hygiene. They might seem lethargic or listless, low energy. You may see big changes in terms of weight, either losing weight or gaining weight in a noticeable way. For faculty, sudden changes in a student in terms of their academic performance. If it's a student that you know is capable and can do well and isn't coming to class anymore, isn't turning in assignments, does very poorly on exams, this is often indicative of a mental health problem.
Thank you, Marilla. How about you, Claudine?
It could be withdrawal. It could be they're not showing up for class. It could be any other type of major change in their behavior. They speak loudly in the classroom, or you had a student who was always vocal who doesn't speak. It could be issues with hygiene. It could be any kind of odd writing or comments. It could be other peers or roommate pointing out that something is not quite right. And I would say the bottom line is really this gut feeling that, there's something not quite right with this student. And it's better to make the call and be wrong versus not making the call and taking the chance that something terrible might happen, because it does happen.
Was there ever a time when you didn't think learning about mental health was important?
I don't think there was ever a time that I didn't think knowing more about mental health problems and mental health services was important. I think it was more a matter of just not being aware of it. I think particularly early on in my career, it definitely wasn't something that was talked a lot about in my academic preparation classes around student affairs work. And so I think it's more once I realized the kind of work that I needed to do to support our students, then it became really apparent that I needed to know more about mental health problems that face particularly our college-age students and the kinds of problems that they have right now.
Thank you, Michael. Alma, how about you?
The past 15 years, every year I've become more convinced that mental health is the cornerstone of students' academic success. So I am a proponent of therapy and exercises and other strategies of maintaining a healthy mental state, so that one can make good choices and be able to achieve whatever they set out to achieve, and then also learn some lifelong strategies, because stress is not only, these conditions are not going to be only here at the university, they're going to move into the workplace and life in general. So we see that we're also trying to influence students for the rest of their lives.
What would you say to a fellow faculty, staff, or administrator who believes it's not their job to know about student mental health issues?
Yeah, well, obviously I think it was unfortunate. I would want them to really understand what it is that our students potentially can go through as it relates to mental health issues. There are a significant amount of students that I know and that we understand through research that can go through mental health issues. And if it's that faculty and staff or staff member that is dealing with that student on a one-on-one basis more so than anyone else, and they're not attuned to what might be a sign from a student, then we're really not doing our jobs. We're not going to be able to educate them if they're struggling with those mental health issues. So it's everyone's job, and I would hope that that faculty or staff member has a significant interest, because it should be a part of our work.
Thank you, Kevin. Ken, what are your thoughts?
Unfortunately, there are some people who feel that way, and I would say to them, your job is in being in an institution of higher education like UC Riverside. You're in the arena of education and developing, young minds. So to dismiss mental health would be doing the students a disservice and the university a disservice, because it's a reality. That would be unfortunate, but like I said, there are some folks who really believe that it's really not important. But until I guess they really walk, in the shoes of someone that's mentally distressed, or maybe have someone close to them or a family member, then they'll never understand.
Are you familiar with the Red Folder Initiative? If so, have you used it? And was it helpful?
So what I've used the Red Folder for, and when I've given it to student staff, I've explained it as it's a handy guide, I guess. It's kind of a cheat sheet of how you can see something, say something, do something. Is kind of the slogan that we have on our campus, and it contains list of resources, of phone numbers that you can call or that you can refer students to in the event that they need support, or especially if there's any kind of crisis situation or anything that they're experiencing and you in the moment might not know how to respond, but that there's someone on campus.
Thank you, Laura. How about you, Kirk?
I have used this folder, and I think that this really breaks it down in such a way that it's very clear how quickly we can connect someone to the right resources, and it really makes it clear that we don't need the professors or staff members to be the experts. There are experts who get paid and have tons of expertise in these things. I think whenever we see distressing behavior, when someone is acting out in any way, and this is an extreme example, but whenever we see behavior that is alarming to us, I think there's a tendency to maybe withdraw and perhaps try to avoid it and refocus on others. And again, I think that that's a disservice. I think we need to take the time to take a look at something like this folder, which is a great resource, and we need to make a call. And we need to be the ones to say, call up the counseling center or whatever, whichever the most appropriate, referral source is, and say, what, I noticed this. I don't know what it means, but I do know that I saw it happening and I wanted to make you aware.
If you could say one thing about student mental health to faculty, staff, or administrators across all the UCs, what would it be?
That mental health matters, that the mental state and well-being of our students is essential for them to be successful, not academically, but in life. And, especially for our underrepresented students who may fall through the cracks, who may not go into counseling services through more traditional routes. So I think of our, LGBT students, our first-gen students, our students of color, our students with disabilities, our veteran students. These are all student groups that have been identified as not accessing mental health. So my message would be that mental health matters, that we need to work to make sure all students are getting the resources they need, and that includes students who may just come to us directly about what their needs are, but that includes noticing the students who may not come to us and the students that may otherwise fall through the cracks.
Wow, amazing. Okay, Claudine, please share your thoughts.
Well, I would say that the impact of mental health is real. And that suicide is one of the most tragic aspects of mental health, and that those things are preventable. We have the tool, we have the resources. So again, say something, do something, use those resources, because stats show that nationwide, the people who commit suicide in general are people who did not reach out for help. So let us be that bright light in the life of those who are in moments of darkness, and reach out and put them in contact with the appropriate professionals who can help them and bring them back to life, to light, to joy, to happiness, and to hope. That should be the mark for all students attending college. So let's not really miss out. We don't have a second chance.
For more information about mental health services offered on your campus and training for graduate research and teaching assistants, contact Student Health and Counseling Services at 415-476-1281, option 2. After hours, call 415-476-1281, option 7, or visit our website.